You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show. You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs.
Ooh, woo, Internet Chan. It's once again time for This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. I'm Hobbs, he's Ben. You're in Clown World. You knew that, though. Otherwise,
Or
you
are
wouldn't
we
be
anymore?
Here. I don't know. Things are getting crazy out there. The inauguration happened last week. And it seems like, contrary to many people's beliefs, Donald Trump is not going to play footsie this time around. He is a completely different man and has been doing one thing after another that appears, a lot of it appears to be out of spite, but they're all, well, no, I'm not going to say all of it has been good. Some of it's been questionable. Some of it's could lead to some problems down the road, but a lot of it has just been like, okay, not only is he doing the things that need to be done, but he's not afraid how politically incorrect he looks when he does it.
Well, this is kind of the Trump that I think a lot of people were hoping for in that first term. And that first week he got in and you saw his cabinet he put together, I was like, oh, well, this is not good. It's just going to be more bullshit of the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, he went that first time he went in, it seemed like he was trying to, like you said, he's not playing footsies. He's trying to make friends with the deep state that runs everything in Washington. This time, not so much.
Yeah, I think like the first time he went in, he was under the impression that, okay, I won the election, I'm the president now, we're going to put aside our differences and try to work together towards the betterment of the country. We're going to, you know, I have the reins of power and people are just going to have to, you know, work with me to figure out how we're going to move forward. And in reality, the people who run the government aren't interested in the business of the United States. They're interested in the business of the government.
Mm-hmm.
And to a lot of people, that may seem to be a distinction without a difference, but it is a big, big difference.
Well, when he went on Rogan, he pretty much said as much. You know, he thought he was going to go in there and everybody was just going to work with him. Mm-hmm. You know, he's the president. Now it's going to be hunky-dory. And they were actively sabotaging him at the time.
Yeah, we saw that with like the withdrawal from Syria, where he told the Pentagon to get these troops out of Syria, and they said, "Okay, sir," and then they turned around and threw the orders in the trash.
Mm-hmm.
And I said as much. I don't know if that episode was you and me or me and Nathan at the time, but I said that disobeying the orders of the president of the United States is one thing. Like you are obligated to disobey direct orders when they are in violation of the Constitution. That's one thing. Disobeying the direct orders of the president if they are lawful is another thing. That's dereliction of duty. It's mutiny. But disobeying the orders of the president in order to continue to keep assets and personnel of the United States military in active harm's way, that's the kind of stuff that should get you hung up by a rope. Short drop, quick stop. And to the best of my knowledge, none of the people who did that are in any way held accountable for it. And I think that's one of the things that after he's done with the bevy of executive orders, undoing the Biden administration's executive orders, that's one of the, I'm not going to say it's going to be the top thing on his list, but it ought to be pretty far up there.
Well, I think he set the template for what any GOP president needs to do going forward as far as disrupting everything. Because when you look at how Washington, D.C. votes in every election, it's like 90% Democrat, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the same people that are working in the staff offices, handling all the day-to-day stuff. And that's who a president is going to expect to work with him when he takes office. No, those people are all going to be actively trying to fuck with him. Mm-hmm. So, you know, get in there, fire all the heads of departments, you know, I mean, fuck it up as much as possible and then take out whatever actions you can.
Right, and it's going to get to the point where a president's first week or so is, regardless of Democrat or Republican, especially if we do the flip flop of like 2 terms Republican, 2 terms Democrat that we have been going over the past, forever. That the president's first week is going to be literally like strip mining the entire heads of every single department just to get some kind of a sycophant class in to the positions of leadership, which is bad. It ought to be that the people that are in charge of these heads of government should be loyal to the United States and eager to work with, if not disagree with whoever the president is, but be willing to work with them in order to advance the interests of the United States. But at this point, you could take a look at a lot of the career politicians and bureaucrats that have put in by not just Democrats, but Democrats and Republicans over the last 30, 40 years. And like I said at the beginning, they're not interested in the business of the United States. They're interested in the business of government, and the business of government is the expansion and consolidation of power.
Well, and I mean, we talked about this too, where I've said that taking over the education system was one of the greatest feats the left achieved. All those people working in these departments, they're all required to have 4-year degrees. So these people have all went through, university brainwashing. Mm-hmm. Go in there. If you're a Republican, go in there, fire those people, put people in charge, hire some quick stop manager from the Midwest and put them in charge of the department. Those fucking people, if they can run a quick stop in the Midwest and keep the world from crumbling around them in flames, I'm sure they could run a government department, and they're probably going to be a GOP fanboy.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of these department heads probably don't do anything aside from sit in front of congressional hearings when something goes wrong. They have so many staffers and assistants and aides and interns that do all of the heavy lifting for them. The department heads are basically just bullet sponges for critique. Mm-hmm. They're the guy whose head gets put on the chopping block when things go sideways, and more often than not, when things go sideways, they end up failing upwards anyways. So there's really no accountability to any of these people. They don't do anything, and they fail upwards. So why wouldn't you want to be one of these head bureaucrats?
Yeah. So somebody with some 4-year degree that came out of an East Coast college and is now part of the deep state of Washington, and they're going to work against whatever GOP president gets in there. So I don't think he went far enough. I think he should have just been firing all of them left and right. Fuck everything up. And you said there'll be sycophants, but put people in there that he knows isn't going to actively work against him.
All right.
I mean, fuck, it can't be that hard. Dude, I could probably run a fucking department. I mean, It's government work.
Yeah, we can branch off a couple of different ways there. Speaking of East Coast universities being indoctrination centers, I guess J.D. Vance caused a bit of a stir in a speech where he said that the professors are the enemy. And I'm scrolling through Twitter a little bit more than I have been in the past, but I've been scrolling through Twitter recently, and I keep saying the same talking point. It's like, for a bunch of people who don't want to be called Nazis, they're doing the 1930s German playbook. And it's like, the professors are enemies. I'm like, yeah, but they're literal communists, though. They are the enemy. They're the definition of the enemy. That was the last big battle that we had, was the Cold War against
the Nazi playbook. The communist playbook, I mean, they get rid of that. I mean, maybe the commies were onto something, getting rid of that educated urban class. I hate to agree with communists, but they might have been onto something there.
Yeah, he also, I believe in the same speech said that he wants to see more babies in the United States, and people are like, "Oh, you know who else wanted to see more babies in their country? Hitler." And I keep seeing the same picture. It's a picture of J.D. Vance giving the speech about wanting to see more babies in the United States, and a picture of the I think it's like the Order of Motherhood or something, which is a medal that the Nazis gave to mothers who had more than 3 babies or something like that. And it's like, Imagine being so fucking dense that you're equating wanting to perpetuate the species to genocide.
They're really leaning into the Nazi thing. That's the only thing they have to go for them at this point. They're just going to try and paint everything as Nazi.
just really try and wedge that in there anywhere they can.
That's all they have going now, that they're going to try and claim everything is Nazis. And, you know, people, we'll see how it works out for them.
It didn't work out in 2016. It didn't work out in 2020. You know, it's getting tight.
So if they're calling them Nazis and they're just pushing it everywhere, what if this administration is wildly successful? And then people are going to be like, maybe it's not so bad being a fascist Nazi. And now you've opened a door to real fascism. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. And speaking of the Nazi thing, of course, Elon's little faux pas that he did caught attention, and the ADL at first came out and kind of defended him. They're like, no, you know, it wasn't a Nazi salute. He was throwing his heart out to the crowd. And then Elon started making Nazi puns on Twitter, and the ADL turned course on that one. But, you know, in the beginning, if the ADL, who sees Nazis around every single corner, comes out and says, hey, this was not what you think it was or what you're ascribing to it, then, you know, maybe you guys are a little bit fucking.
My favorite was then somebody posted a video of Tim Walz doing the same thing.
Tim Walz doing it.
Yeah.
AOC did it. Elizabeth Warren did it. Barack Obama did it. Emmanuel Macron did it. Keir Starmer's done it. I mean, like, all of the left's golden calves right now have done some, or it can be there's an angle of a still shot of that looks like they're doing that. So, you know, it's like, just chill the fuck out with the Nazis everywhere.
Yeah. That's all they have now. I mean, everything that they've done was fucked up the last 4 years. What they said was bad about the GOP, their party did it themselves, like with the pardons. I remember when it was looking like Trump was going to lose, all you heard in the media was they were saying, oh, Trump's going to preemptively pardon his staff and his family on his way out. And, you know, that's what fascists do. I saw a clip of that. And then here's Joe Biden.
Yep. So we got a one of our comments over here on the Rumble page. It says Hegseth should do it now that he's in. Let them focus on that for the next week. No, he doesn't need to do it. I saw a side by side on Twitter today, a picture of Pete Hegseth without his shirt on. Of course, he's got the big Jerusalem cross tattoo on his.
Oh,
on
it's
his,
Nazi.
Yeah, and then like right next to it was a "Know Your Nazi" symbolism, and it was like, you know, the Death's Head and the Iron Cross and 1488 and like all these other things. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm looking, just like I'm like, maybe they're talking about a different tattoo. So I'm like looking at Pete Hegseth's arms, and there's like an American flag and an AR, and I'm just like, where, like what? And the only thing I think that they might be really, really reaching for is the Jerusalem cross. Is a cross, and then it's got 4 little crosses in each corner, and maybe they think that the 4 little crosses in each corner are the Iron Cross. Maybe, if you look at it.
I saw that too, and then I saw where somebody posted a picture of where they did the National Cathedral. There's a Jerusalem cross on the floor of the National Cathedral. It's like, you need this Nazi symbol?
Yeah, and it was on the back of the funeral bulletin for Jimmy Carter. So you guys just make yourselves look so dumb.
That's all they got. I mean, they don't have anything. Oh, somebody, Plains Prepper comment. We were talking about managers. I get a Waffle House manager in there. Shit, good call on that one.
Make the Waffle House manager the Department of Defense.
The constant Nazi everywhere rhetoric, Raptor said this, is causing the political pendulum effect of creating them. Exactly. Yeah. If you're going to call this whole administration Nazis and it gets wildly successful, what's the equation going to be there? Nazi good?
Nazi works.
Yeah. And then you've opened the door for, like you said, the Pandora's box of actual fascism, Nazi bullshit.
Yeah, or at least for it to be ushered in, and then when they find out what real fascism is, it's not gonna pale in, or it's not going to compute, but it'll definitely make it a little more acceptable in public discourse.
Yeah, so Hexeth got in there. I saw Mitch McConnell. What the fuck, that guy?
I think he realizes that he's probably about one wrong turn of the head from falling over dead, and so he's just going to do one last little spiteful act on behalf of his deep state masters or his communist Chinese masters.
Yeah, because I saw they posted I don't remember the name of Trump's last his sec def from the last administration. But Mattis, there was one either before or after him too, and McConnell was raving about him because the guy had worked for Raytheon and all these other industries. I think that's what the deep state hates about Hexeth, is that he's not part of the club.
Yeah, that, and he's openly said that he would like to not throw the military at every single problem in every corner of the globe. That if it doesn't serve U.S. interests to have the military involved, then the military shouldn't be involved in it. And that, I think, just really, really chaps their ass.
I can see him ending all the DEI bullshit in the military day one, even though Trump, has said they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
He'll really put the hammer to it.
Yeah, he seems to have a personal vendetta against that sort of thing. I saw a picture of I don't know if it was a VA clinic or like a recruiting center or something, but there was a picture of some people taking down some decorations that said "Pride in Service," and there's like the rainbow pride, and it's like, this wall is where we displayed pictures of LGBTQ service members, and now it's being taken down. Like, imagine you're in the military. Your job is literally to kill people and break their stuff, and you're expecting to be celebrated for who you fuck.
Yeah.
No, sorry, that's not the purpose of this little group of people.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and I've commented on the corporate level of DEI. That's been hamstringing the United States for the last 4 years. We're still the most our economy is still one of the best in the world right now. And we've been hamstrung by this DEI initiatives that are intentionally wasting, money, manpower. And now that corporations are dropping that, I think we're going to see I think that Trump could have just done that when he got in, ended all the DEI crap, and it would have taken off like a rocket. I think we're going to see the economy just go hot once they all drop that.
Yeah, I think so too. Now that it's more socially acceptable. This was kind of a symptom of the gaslighting, like we talked about the last time that we were on, that everybody's been going into. Now that somebody has kind of broken the ground and thrown it out there into the public sphere that, hey, it is okay to say DEI is wrong and stupid, and to do something about it. Other people who are just like shit scared of getting canceled are going to be like, yeah, this DEI thing has been holding my company back. Now we're going to do away with it. Not only are we going to be able to axe an entire department full of HR Karens that accomplish nothing but making my business run poorly, but now we can also hire the people who deserve to be hired, and everything can just through the roof. And yeah, this is exactly what not only the government, the DOD, but also the corporate environment needs.
Well, that's just a Democrat way of fixing things. They see something's wrong. A lot of them have a good heart. They see something wrong and they want to fix the problem. they just come up with the most fucking retarded, worthless way of doing it. Like they're seeing that there's minorities, sure, minorities might not be represented like they should be for what they make up of the population. But instead of them looking at like what is fucking going on in these inner cities that they can't read, they're not graduating from high school, they're not getting hired for upper level jobs. They're like, well, let's just force companies to take them. That'll fix it. No, it didn't fix shit. You have a bunch of people, you'll end up with a bunch of minorities in positions underperforming. That makes them look even worse because, they didn't get an education, DEI all the way through college for them. They coasted through college because, they have to fill quotas. They don't want to fail them because it looks racist. And they fail upward, and then it just makes them look bad. It makes them look even worse when they get to that point and they can't perform.
Yeah, and the ones that do deserve to be there, they might have self-doubt in their mind, like, did I really earn this position, or am I just a diversity hire? And it also breeds resentment among their coworkers. It's like, do you deserve to be here, or are you just a diversity hire? Yeah, it accomplishes nothing but make more division.
So, hopefully if they end this DEI stuff, they'll actually start looking at the bottom up from why they have such an issue. And the black communities are starting to question it too. They're like, why is our neighborhoods and our education system so fucked? They realize it's wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to quit voting for Democrats. The GOP has a huge opportunity here to make those inroads that LBJ did long ago when he said he'll have them N-words voting for decades.
Yep, 200 years.
Right. Yeah. Some more comments. Gretchen Whitmer for FBI director.
God, I hope not.
It'd be funny for FBI kidnapping plot psyop lady to get that job. Kash Patel, he hasn't been I've been keeping up on the confirmations. Is he still unofficially the man at this point?
As far as I know, he's the one that has been nominated. He is the guy that is going to have to stand tall in front of the Senate for the confirmation. He just hasn't had his hearings yet.
I think it seems like they're doing the controversial ones first. So, there's no reason they wouldn't put him in there. ATF director, is that come up yet?
No, that one hasn't come up yet. Kash Patel hasn't had his. Pete Hegseth squeaked through on a 51-50 vice president tiebreaker today.
Vance's post on his Twitter, thought I was done voting, LOL.
Yeah. Kristi Noem got voted as head of DHS, like overwhelmingly confirmed, which makes me a little bit nervous. Yeah, that's the thing about Hegseth, that when I look at him, I look at his bona fides, I look at his temperament, his age, like everything about him. I'm like, why this guy? I mean, I can understand members of the Senate being like, why are you being chosen to be the Department of Defense head? But then at the same time, I look at somebody getting approved with overwhelming bipartisan support, and it makes me a little like, are they part of the club?
I think Noam just goes under the radar enough being from South Dakota that they don't hear all her dirty laundry and whatnot. South Dakota's kind of a uniparty state, so she wouldn't really got vetted too bad. I guess they just didn't think it was a fight worth fighting.
I mean, maybe, but with the dog shooting thing and the lies about meeting with Kim Jong-un and just like all the other crap that was in her biography.
Maybe they think she's going to fuck up spectacularly. You might be onto something there. Like, yeah, this lady's going to fuck up big time. Let's get her in there.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Maybe Republicans wanted to do it because she's deep red Republican, and Democrats want to put her in there because they think she's going to fuck up and make Trump look bad.
Yep.
Yeah, we still haven't had RFK or Tulsi or Kash Patel yet.
And what was he putting Tulsi up for?
DNI, Director of National Intelligence.
Oh, okay. And that one could be contentious too, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that Cash and Tulsi and RFK are going to have a fight ahead of them
Hmm.
because Cash
Just because
Patel.
we're going to have some turncoat Republicans that,
Yeah, yeah, turncoat Republicans that just want to throw a monkey wrench in the works wherever they can, and Tulsi because the Democrats fucking hate her. They see her as a traitor, and they're still throwing that whole uh, she's a Russian asset bullshit out there. Uh, RFK because of his vaccine stances, and Kash Patel because he has out and out said that he is going to start declassifying like everything, and they're shit scared that they're on some list somewhere of I don't know Malthusian child rapists and war criminals.
I mean, the most important one to a lot of our audience is probably the ATF director. But what names were floated for? I mean, Brandon Herrera was kind of thrown out there, but I don't know if it caught on or.
There was one guy I can't remember his name that was kind of floating around in the ether about Trump's top pick. It wasn't Brandon Herrera. It wasn't any kind of a gun tuber. It was kind of a guy who just seems like he's a bureaucrat, and not that he's hostile to the Second Amendment, but he seems like kind of a political climber that would get put in charge of a bureaucracy like that and just kind of continue business as usual because we've always done it this way. Not having any particular agenda one way or the other, but just kind of be a guy that keeps the boat on course.
Well, and if there's any agency that's been used to weaponized against enemies of the state, it would be that one.
Yeah.
And they're obviously openly hostile because when Trump, said no more DEI at federal agencies, they reclassified that lady as senior executive.
Yeah, that's been going on now an awful lot across a lot of agencies. Is their chief DEI officers have been changing their titles on their official pages, on their LinkedIn pages. They're trying to hide the DEI departments. It's gotten so bad that the Trump administration has sent out kind of a form letter. I've seen one for I think it was HHS and NASA. It was the exact same letter, just addressed to to whom it may concern or whatever. But it was saying that the Trump administration has become aware that in violation of the executive order to do away with all DEIA, they added an A to it. I think that stands for accessibility. But to do away with all DEIA aspects within federal government departments, DEI departments or whatever are violating this by changing the name or using stealth and coded language. And it's like it basically said you have a 1 week amnesty to turn any of these people in, or bad things are going to happen. It did not mince words at all.
Huh. Yeah, and I mean that's probably one of those departments that just we talk about he should just get rid of the FBI at this point. Probably just get rid of the ATF at this point.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's so corrupt. If they're pulling shit like that, presidential order. Well, fuck you, president. Do what I want. Obviously, that one just needs disbanded.
Yeah, there's a lot of redundant departments out there that have overlap. Things like the FBI, the ATF. There's some other ones that they have different aspects of domestic investigation. Like the ATF goes after obviously the alcohol, tobacco, firearm, and explosives part of investigations domestically, and the FBI goes after the other types of criminal investigations domestically. The Secret Service, for one reason or another, still handles counterfeit investigations domestically. So we got all of these various departments that are all about investigations for one little corner of the criminal code or another, and all of these different aspects could be consolidated and rolled into one department, and then it could have the fat trimmed off of it, and you can do away with probably several tens of thousands of federal employees that way.
I would guess the amount of work or lack of work that federal employees put in some of these Washington offices is probably eye-opening. I mean,
well, what do you mean within the offices? One of Trump's executive orders was that all federal employees had to get their asses back to the office, since so many of them were remote working still. And that has caused a lot of kerfuffle amongst
well, I saw a post on Reddit, so you decide if it's true or fake, but it was a person stating, with Trump's new order that we have to return to office, I'm working 2 other jobs. What am I going to do? So this guy's a federal work from home employee. He had a second full-time job, and then another part-time job of like his side hustle where he was working out of his house doing catering. That was the one that was going to screw him up. He's like, it's really going to screw up my catering business that I have. It's like, motherfucker, you've been working probably 15 minutes a day at your government job, I would guess. You know, logs in, sends some emails, puts on his mouse jiggler, and
the little bird that hits the Y.
Yeah,
from The Simpsons.
Yeah, and goes about the rest of his day at his other jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good that they have to return to work.
Yeah. So if your job is that easy that you can have 1 or 2 other jobs on the side, like on one hand, I respect the hustle, man. Like, you know, it's not easy having a couple of jobs, but if your government job is so easy that you can shift focus to another full-time job that can also make you a full-time living, it's probably safe to say that you and 5 other people can be axed from the department, and all of your responsibilities can be rolled over to a single person.
It'd be different if this was private sector too. I mean, if a private sector company is doing so fantastically successful that they don't care that some fucker sits at home and does 15 minutes of work, more power to that company. But you're wasting taxpayer money.
Yeah, my money.
Yeah. They're wasting everybody's money. It needs fixed.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And hopefully Doge starts handling that. Just cut 10% of the workforce, maybe. Just do that for starters.
I think I saw a tweet from the official Doge Twitter account today saying that this might just be Elon pulling a funny internet troll, but that says they've cut their first $420 million from the federal budget by doing one thing or another.
Comment back here on ATF stuff. Have you guys been keeping up with hybrid casing technology for ammo? Pretty neat stuff. Well, I don't know if we want to get Hobbs going on gun stuff with SHOT Show going on, but I mean,
yeah, SHOT Show is currently underway right now. There are a lot of things that I am keeping track of right now. I am going to try to get 1, maybe 2 of the people that I've interviewed in the past who are at SHOT Show right now. Actually, SHOT Show wrapped up today, but I'll try and get a couple of people maybe next week or the week after that, after they get home and kind of shake off the Las Vegas funk that seems to follow everybody home from those conventions. Long story short, hybrid case technology. I'm not sure whether you're talking about the polymer cased stuff or the stuff like the SIG 277 Fury with the stainless steel cartridge head and the retardedly high chamber pressures. I guess both of those could be hybrid cases in one way or another. I am aware of both of them. I've seen both of them come up. I could talk about either one at length and why there are pros and cons behind either or. Maybe it's something that we'll get with. Personally, I like the polymer case stuff more than I like the retarded high pressure stuff, just because of the barrel and gas port erosion issues that come with an 80,000 PSI chamber pressure. I think you're pushing things a little bit too hard there, but that's neither here nor there. That'll be for a Sunday night observation show.
Yeah. Well, we usually do a SHOT Show wrap up anyway. So Well, Hobbs will knock that out. But yeah, speaking of the ATF stuff, I saw that New York was going to start having people register 3D printers like they do with weaponry to try and cut down on ghost guns.
Yeah, so as bad as that is, have you seen what's going on in the UK with the knives?
How do you get? So now they can't even get butter knives, or what?
Okay, so a while back, I remember the Southport stabbing guy. He was not a refugee. He was actually born in the UK to Rwandan immigrant parents. His name was Axel Rudikabane. He was 17 years old, and he walked into a dance class and stabbed like 11 people, and 2 of them died. And they're blaming Amazon for this because that's where he bought the knife. And it wasn't like a tactical knife or a Bowie knife or a hunting knife or anything. It was just a regular kitchen knife like you would have in any kitchen. Like why he would need to buy one off of Amazon when he probably had an identical one in his house is anybody's guess. But this kid had a history of violence in school. He had a history of he brought a knife to school and got expelled from one school. He brought a hockey stick to another school and broke another kid's arm. He was obsessed with historical genocides. Like people who knew him and went to school with him, he said that that's all he wanted to talk about was genocides.
Yeah, that guy's fun at parties.
Oh yeah, really fun at parties. But anyway, so he did this, and rather than admit that maybe the caliber of people that you're bringing into your country and their offspring might not mesh well with the traditional English culture and customs, instead they want to say, oh, he bought his knife on Amazon, and there was no age verification, so that's why he stabbed. It's like you guys just see knives as some type of a magic talisman that's like whispering in some disturbed kid's ear, go out and stab somebody, go out and stab somebody,
like middle-aged men in Burger King crowns.
It speaks to you, man.
Say it. So that's crazy. So now they're gonna crack down even more on the knives, I suppose. What's next? Clubs?
Hands and feet.
I mean, they're almost a failed state at this point.
Yeah, it's like, how much further are you going to go? Like it's a stupid argument, but there's an argument to be made for like hunting knives and tactical knives and stuff like that if you're going to like go all in on the weapons control. But a common kitchen knife, it's in every single home in the UK. You're not going to control that, and it's
wait until I find out what a shiv is.
Screwdrivers are next. Like, how far do you people want to go with this?
You know, we were that close to ending up like the rest of Europe. I mean, if Hillbot had won, I could see us tipping over to be just like the rest of Europe.
It's a possibility. We definitely probably would have got into a war with Iran and then Russia and the rest of the Eastern world.
The fake news would have never been, exposed for what they were to the mainstream. So, surely Hillary probably would have had a 2-term presidency. At that point we would have had, a long rule of that side of the political spectrum. I mean, and we probably would end up just like Europe. But
it would have ended up being single party rule.
Yeah.
More likely than not, it probably would have ended up as single party rule, because when you look at a lot of the things that the Democrats institute when they are in power, the argument against it is always, well, what happens when a Republican gets into power and they use these apparatuses that you've built in against you? Guys, they're thinking beyond that. When they put in these type of dystopian whoa, what if a Republican gets a hold of it type of measures, it's implied that a Republican will never get into power again. That's the point. That's why they're putting these in place. And I guess in one way, we're absolutely lucky that Trump had the charisma, the talking points, just the LOL factor. I don't know what it was, but he managed to bust through it. And the 4 years that we had of Biden was a blessing in disguise because we saw just how bad it could have gotten.
Yeah. I mean, that I think we'll be able to look back as, probably one of the worst presidents, but probably one of the most important presidents to have in there at that point to bust everything up.
Right. Because without that 4-year break, Trump would have got his second term, and he would have had a Democrat Senate, a Democrat Congress. Still would have had the judiciary, but you've got squishy assholes like John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, who has just been a disgraceful disappointment. He would have had the unified media. Elon probably would not have bought Twitter, in all honesty, because things would have been kind of unified to make things so bad that he wouldn't have felt the need to, because it wouldn't have clicked in his head that he needed to. We'd have more internet censorship, and nothing would have got done. And running in 2024 would have probably been somebody like Mike Pence versus Michelle Obama, or Hillary again, or God knows who.
We joke around, but I mean, it was pretty bad there at the height of COVID, when the government and corporations were walking in lockstep. I mean, that's basically fascism. That's the real Nazi right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were that close to just, people buying into the narrative and just turning over power to save grandma. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were close.
Right.
They almost did it.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. That's the thing. I think I've laid this explanation out a couple of times before about the distinction between fascism in its dictionary definition and what we had when we were under COVID. Fascism's definition, at least politically speaking, there's the cultural side of it that I won't really get into, but as far as like the political and economic theory of fascism is private ownership of the means of production, but total government control. And it's implied in that statement that there is always a bit of friction, a bit of an antagonistic relationship between the interests of the private ownership and the government control. But what we had under COVID was private ownership of the means of production, to include our media and the social media apparatuses that we had, and a complete lockstep ideological synergy with the wants and goals of the government. And that is more dangerous than any fascism that came about in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Because
I don't know.
There's not that antagonistic relationship.
And I don't know if they pushed too hard, too fast, or where they fucked it up. But I mean, they were at the point where, you had to have your shot to do this, do that. I'm sure it'll be analyzed by people further down the line of where they fucked up from taking complete control. But something ended up being the tipping point, and the whole system fell apart, and nobody trusted anything, which they shouldn't.
It was too obvious.
Yeah, that might be it too. It was just too obvious what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. Probably the 6 foot thing is what, I mean, I'm going to guess one of the silly little rules they tried to push out there was just a bridge too far for everybody to be like, really? I mean, something's weird here.
It's like, I agree with what you guys are trying to do, but this is too far. This is too stupid.
This is too, I mean, mask, but when they started putting, I think it was probably if I'm going to guess, I'm going to say it was the schools when, they had kids cutting holes in their masks to play musical instruments.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess the schools is what kind of had people thinking like, what's really going on here? This is not right.
Yeah. Yeah. You had that. You had the you have to wear your mask at all times until you sit down to eat. Then you can take it off.
Or maybe it was the riots, Okay, you got to wear your mask, but if you're a minority in an inner city burning something, you're probably okay.
Yeah. Or you got to stay 6 feet apart unless you're like shoulder to shoulder with a group of people pushing towards the police station to burn it down. Then you're okay, right? It's like, or the bullshit headline that came out of CNN where it was like, actually, riots might stop the spread of COVID. It's like, okay, now you're just fucking with us.
Yeah. And at that point, it all fell apart. I mean, it's like you were this close, you guys, and you went too far.
Yeah. Yeah, it was absolutely silly.
And here we are now. So, I mean, it feels like, so much has happened in just a week that he's been in there. I mean, these 4 years could be a wild ride.
Could absolutely be a wild ride. I am cautiously optimistic because not the opportunity, but the possibility that something like COVID happens again and fools him into doing something stupid like Operation Warp Speed. Because people want to blame Trump for Operation Warp Speed, and I'm just like, he's not a doctor. He had to default to the experts because he doesn't know what any of that crap means. And the experts come in and tell him that, like, oh, everybody's got to wear a mask and we're coming up with a vaccine and you got to give us X amount of money for it. And no, it didn't come from a Chinese bioweapons lab. It came from a wet market. It's like, how is he supposed to know any different? He's not a doctor, right?
That horse dewormer will fuck you up. Don't take that.
Yeah, all of that stuff. So, on the one hand, I think that like putting it all on his shoulders is probably a little bit too much because we're the United States of America. We're a first world country. You're supposed to be able to trust your doctors. Okay? And guys like me who see conspiracy theories everywhere, I know that's a weird thing for me to say, but like in the United States, you're supposed to be able to trust your doctor. Your doctor is supposed to be able to trust his administrators at the hospital. The administrators at the hospital are supposed to be able to trust the public health administrations. Public health administrations are supposed to be able to, it's supposed to have a line of trust that goes up the chain. If you are constantly suspicious of the next person in the order, that is a failed society. That is a low trust society, unfortunately. And that is what the whole COVID thing has reduced us to be a low trust society now, where now every single doctor who wants to prescribe a medication that his hospital administrator said is safe and effective, now he's going to have to go through and waste his time and resources doing the research on his own to make sure, oh, hey, remdesivir doesn't cause renal failure and patient death in 96% of the people that it's given to. Oh, these respirators, when somebody's having a novel coronavirus, doesn't blow your lungs completely out of your asshole. I guess maybe we shouldn't do that. But the experts told me that that's the course of action we're supposed to take and the only course of action that we're supposed to take. That's what we've been reduced to now. We've been reduced to a low trust society like the third world in regards to our health system.
Well, and now people are going back looking into stuff too. All right, they're wrong on this. How much else have they been wrong on? I mean, they're finding about stuff about cancer treatments. What did I see the other day that the horse dewormer, whatever the fuck,
ivermectin
and methylene blue has apparently carried cancers left and right.
Yeah. There's
and
another
they were making
one
fun of those people for taking that methylene blue for years.
Yeah, methylene blue is like a fabric dye.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it's got some like anti-cancer. There's another one. It's fibro some that starts with an F. You take it and you take ivermectin prophylactically, and it's got cancer reducing properties to it.
Cancer, it turns out cancer loves glucose and glucagon in your bloodstream. Well, guess what? A bunch of fucking carbs pumps your bloodstream full of it. So you're just feeding the cancer if you're going off eating your
food pyramid.
Yeah, eating your food pyramid like that. It's like everything's suspect at this point.
Yeah.
You know, cholesterol. Well, people didn't start getting Alzheimer's in large numbers until they started taking cholesterol meds. Well, it turns out maybe your brain needs all that cholesterol floating around to keep from getting holes in it. Oops.
Your brain is like 90% fat.
Yeah, so let's
I mean, just like, anecdotally speaking from personal experience, when I stopped eating a lot of grains, especially processed grains, and started eating almost exclusively eggs and meat and dairy, the fat fell off of my midsection. My skin looks better than ever. I can think more clearly than ever.
I'll still fuck up and get a craving for some shitty carbs, and I feel like shit for a week, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, no wonder people are feeling like that all the time, and they're getting cancer from it, and the whole medical establishment's fucked, obviously. Seems like once a month you get some new report about, this study that everybody's believed for 40 years, turns out it was paid off by the people that benefited from it. They bought the researchers off.
Simple corporate corruption.
Yep.
We got a kind of a conversation going over here in the comment sections on the Rumble. I've been kind of watching it play out here. It's our buddy Sam over at Weaponized News and Karen Peterson. Hello, friends. Thank you. They're talking about Operation Warp Speed and all of the stuff that we were basically talking about too. Sam says Rockefeller medicine. Yeah, Rockefeller. The Rockefellers were behind a lot of what we consider the pharmacological scourge that we have in our country right now, because a huge, like almost entirety of big pharma is based on petroleum. The Rockefellers were, of course, Standard Oil. So, yeah.
Well, and sure, some people, cancer can still be genetic. Sure, there's some people, like when you read about a 2-year-old getting cancer, obviously, he hasn't been exposed to a lot of stuff. It might be genetic. Try these fucked up cancer treatments. Maybe it'll work on him. But I'm going to guess for 80% of the population, it's just either diet related or some other environmental, and it can be fixed just with these simple things that they don't want you to know about.
Yep. Change your diet and change a few things.
Oh, somebody brought up something we didn't talk about. Oh, the school shooter. We didn't get to that one.
How fast did that one disappear?
I don't think it ever appeared, did it?
No, it didn't.
I never saw it on any of my news feeds.
Yeah, me neither. There were only 3 people. Only 3 people that died. It was 2 and him. But yeah, there was a black Nazi.
I don't know what you call that, dude. He grew up in LA. He hated, the Chris Rock sketch, there's N-words and black people. He hated N-words. Yep. Didn't really seem to have a problem with black people, but that specific subsect of black people, he definitely had issues with. He had I hate to give credit to any school shooter, but he had a manifesto that outlined everything, and he didn't lock it in Google Documents.
The difference between men and women.
You knew why this guy did it. He talked about his history, about what led him to be this way, and there you had it. A lot of times these school shooters, you're left wondering what the fuck happened. Well, this one, bam, it's right there. That's what happened to this guy.
Laid it all out in its slur-heavy glory, and even had a nice little FAQ.
Yeah, exactly.
Frequently asked questions to the guy who's about to go shoot up a school. You think the people asking these frequently asked questions would have been like, hey, this dude's about to shoot up a school. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so I mean, he obviously had some mental issues going on too from his background, and a little bit of self-hate maybe because of that. Fell down the internet rabbit hole and nobody caught him.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything come out from the FBI. He was on our radar.
Well, if our commenter over here on the Rumble says the school shooting disappeared because it wasn't a white kid that murdered a black kid, and never forget the race card that the media plays.
He did target other black kids, I guess. So
yeah,
black on black violence. It's America. Who cares, right?
Right, exactly. That's just like what's going on when it's a little bit of column A. It's an anomaly, a lone psychopath. But when it's column B, it's evidence of a pattern, and it all depends on who's reporting on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one didn't show up at all. That was interesting.
Yep.
Because it didn't fit the narrative, and it doesn't fit any narratives from anywhere at any time. That one was so far out there.
Yeah, it's I saw a meme, and it's the the picture of the lady with all of the math flying by her head with the confused look on her face. And it said 4chan trying to figure out whether this is based or not.
Oof. Yeah. Other comments. Stacey Abrams photo op disaster. Oh, somebody said the Stacey Abrams photo op disaster in that classrooms. Students messed up except for her. Oh, they were talking about when we were saying the schools were, yeah. That was the other thing. The ruling elite also wasn't sticking to the narrative. That kind of screwed it. Gavin Newsom he showed up at a party. He had his whole state locked down more than anybody in the entire union. And Gavin Newsom's having a party with 50 people dancing and probably doing cocaine and whatever else that guy's into.
Well, not only did he have the party at the French Laundry, which is like a $4,200 a plate fancy schmancy restaurant, but during the lockdown, when he was telling everybody that they had to stay home or they would die, he jetted off to his wife's family's ranch in Montana to ride horses and do whatever it is that they did out there.
AOC went to Texas because there was no mask mandate for vacation.
Yep. It's a lot of hypocrisy.
And it blew it wide open. I think that's where it fell apart. We're getting up on an hour, though. You said you were going to try and get some. Were you going to try and do the SHOT Show thing next week, maybe, or?
I don't know about next week or 2 weeks after that. I have to throw out a few messages to a couple of people that I'm pretty sure were there. Last year we did Steve from Mad Pig Customs and Dana from Templar Precisions. I talked to Dana a little bit ago. There was something that came out at SHOT Show that really piqued my interest, and now it's kind of moved to getting one of his Templar Scythe ACRs up the ladder on my hierarchy of needs. But other than that, I don't know if I'll ask him to come back on again if he's willing to do it, or maybe I'll throw an invitation out to a couple of other people. We'll see what we can come up with.
Okay.
Next 2 weeks.
So keep your ear out for that. We'll announce it on next week's show. We'll be back again next week, same time, same place, Rumble, YouTube. We didn't get shut off Facebook this time, but I didn't see anybody pop up on Facebook, so maybe we're still in algorithm hell over there. I saw Sam from Weaponized News was in the chat over here. Make sure to check out their channel on Rumble. 5 days a week, long playlists. They're trying to hit 3,000 hours played so they can get monetized on YouTube. So they've got a playlist there. Start it before you go to bed. Listen to them. Just have something playing so they can hit those numbers. So thanks for joining us tonight. See you next week, and stay honky.